Thank you, listeners, for joining us for Elko Live today, our weekday radio show. And we are so pleased to feature our guest in studio. Korri Ward is here from the Northern Nevada Autism Network. She has important news in advocating for people with disabilities. She is now chairperson of the Nevada Commission on Autism Spectrum Disorders and is also a member of the Olmstead Planning Committee, developing the state of Nevada's own Olmstead Plan. Welcome, Korri. It is wonderful to see you. It's been too long. So
thank you, Lori. It's fantastic to be here. So much happened this legislative session, and I am very thrilled to be here and share this information with families here in Elko so that they can know what to expect and know what to look forward to.
We have a lot to look forward to as a community and as a state, and certainly a lot of that credit goes to your work, the foundation that you've laid. Korri, ever since we first met, you have been fierce as an advocate, but that really stemmed from your relationship with family, I understand, with your brother and then with your son.
Yes, I have 30-year-old twin boys that have autism spectrum disorders. They are on opposite ends of the spectrum. And so one boy graduated with a master's degree from UNR and has his own house and works for the federal government. And then the other son lives with us in Lamoille, and he has staff that helps take care of him during the day. And those are called home and community-based waiver services. And that's something I really want to talk about today, and letting people know what the changes are right here in Elko with home and community-based waiver services. And so he gets to, and he also has a little candy machine business, and he's happy. So
that's the most important thing. That's all we want for our children is their happiness.
Yes.
And as long as they feel like they can contribute in some way, that's really a great deal of what we'll be talking about today, is how we can advocate for the happy, healthy lives of our friends and family and neighbors who have disabilities. So we should talk about first what the Nevada Commission on Autism Spectrum Disorders is up to, right, Korri?
Right. Okay. So we just restarted back in May. We were appointed by Governor Lombardo, and we are rewriting our 5-year plan. And the 5-year plan is something that future legislators will look at when making decisions for people that have autism living here in Nevada. Like, what sort of services do they need? What do they need to be successful in the community? So one of the things that we had fought for in the past was to increase the insurance rate, especially for Medicaid. So people that had Medicaid had access to the same treatment that people that had general insurance had access to. And indeed, that rate went up. It doubled in January. So that was a victory. So another thing that the Autism Commission is advocated for is to increase the age of treatment, and that age is now up through 26. So if you have a child that's maybe transitioning from high school to having a job or living independently, and learning some of the skills that he's going or she's going to need to live independently, then that is now covered by health insurance and Medicaid up through the age of through 26. So until the 27th birthday, they can access that. And that's a tremendous benefit for people that are making that transition, so they can have more success on the job training and more success living at home. Because even if they learn how to use a washer and dryer at home, that doesn't necessarily mean that that washer and dryer where they're living now works the same way. So just maybe a little bit of ABA therapy to tweak some things will be very helpful.
And Korri, can you tell us what ABA therapy is?
ABA stands for Applied Behavioral Analysis. It's evidence-based therapy for people that have autism. And years ago, I was on the Autism Task Force, and that was a statewide task force, and it was determined, and it's written in that task force that ABA is effective for people of all ages. Now, for sure, if you've got a child that has autism and he's 2, much more effective than if they're 25. But if they're 25, still effective and still accessible now.
And these are huge changes as we're updating with Korri Ward from the Northern Nevada Autism Network right here in our community, because many of these services and this legislation would not have been comprehensible when you first arrived here in this community.
Oh, when I first arrived, things were much different. That was in 2003. And even then, us advocates were first fighting just to have autism diagnosed, because the way it worked, if you took your child to a medical provider for an autism diagnosis, if it ended up being autism, you had to pay cash. But if it was something else, a different disorder or something else, then it was covered by health insurance. So how is this, right? So that was one of the first things. And then autism treatment, ABA therapy, did not become funded through insurance until 2011. And then Medicaid was even after that. So,
wow, yeah. Incredible. So again, these are very significant developments. And we should also describe what the Olmstead Planning Committee is and how it is that we have a state of Nevada Olmstead Plan. It's in the works, or we've already...
It's in the works.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be done in October. Now, if people are interested in checking this out, and we're really wanting public comments. So if you know somebody that has a disability or somebody that's referred to as aged, right, then they qualify for services under the Olmstead Plan as well. And so if you look at the Aging and Disability Service Division website, which is adsd.nv.gov, and scroll down, it says Olmstead. And if you click on that Olmstead link, it will take you to what we are currently doing. We meet once a month. We've been meeting for almost a year now. Our paper is supposed to be done, or our book is supposed to be done in October. And the Olmstead Planning Committee is for not just autism, it's for all disabilities. And how do we need to improve services or make services more available so people can live in the community? All of this is based on a Supreme Court decision, the Olmstead decision. And in the Olmstead decision, there was people that wanted to move out of an institution and into the community, but that was not allowed. And there was no funding for that. So now with the Olmstead decision, people with disabilities can remain in the community of their choice. And they're supposed to receive those same services that they would receive in the institution at home. And this is a fiscally smart decision for the state. As part of the Olmstead Planning Committee, I've seen the cost of institutionalization, and it is extreme compared to receiving services in your own home. So, however, I'm going to bounce off that one. In order for people to live in their home, we have to have a really strong workforce to make that happen. And so part of the work of the Autism Commission was to raise the rate that the direct care staff is paid. And direct care staff, we're talking about CNAs, we're talking about people that provide personal care services, we're talking about people that provide supported SLA services, supported living assistance. Okay, and so generally their wage has been between $11 and $12.50 an hour. Now, our state's interim finance committee did approve a 20% raise for the direct care staff, so when the company billed, they could receive a little bonus, 20% bonus on what they billed, and with the intent that it would trickle down to direct care staff. And well, there was companies were slow to trickle that money down, and we still have people that are earning $11, $12.50 an hour. And at this legislative session, there was a significant rate increase based on a Burns report, based on some prior legislative decisions that had happened. And starting in January, that direct care staff needs to be paid $16 an hour. So that was a legislative decision that is the minimum that they can be paid. And then that's not where the good news stops for people that are in this line of work. Then in April 2024, that rate will even go up higher in rural areas. The rate of reimbursement will go up. I don't know if providers will pay a higher wage, but they may start paying for other things. Like right now, somebody that works in this line of work, if they drive to somebody's house and provide services for a couple of hours, then when they drive to the next house, they don't receive pay between the houses, even though they're on the clock. So with a higher rate of reimbursement through Medicaid, people that provide this direct care staff can maybe get paid. I don't know what providers will do, but maybe that is something that they might do, or maybe they'll pay a higher wage, or maybe they'll pay for vacation benefits, maybe start treating people that are providing direct care services in a way that they'll want to stay in that field.
Because these are professional providers, Korri. They have certifications. They're certainly sought after staff. That's got to be an issue recruiting people to rural Nevada in particular.
Right, and they have training on how to work with people. They need to be empathetic at times when maybe it's really hard to be empathetic, and they need to be compassionate, comparing. They take them out into the community to go grocery shopping, or maybe they help them tying their shoes, or maybe they just play cards with them, or cook a meal with them. And everybody's got good days and bad days, but they're vital to people staying in the community.
So is this part of the advocacy that people do? I mean, we have certain people who volunteer, and then we have professional staff, and now we have people who can actually apply for these jobs through various agencies, Korri?
Right, and there's an exciting agency that is sort of new to Elko. They've been here for about a year, and they're called Northern Nevada Neighborhood Network. And for short, we call them N4. And they're doing hiring right now, and their base rate is $17 an hour. If you do a good job, I know somebody that just got raised. They've been there a year. Now they're making $17.85, doing the same job. So this company is providing some upward mobility for their employees, which is new and very exciting. The other thing that's really super exciting about the Northern Nevada Neighbor Network is that they provide services not only to people through the Rural Regional Center that have home and community-based waiver services, but they also provide services to the elderly. So you can get 5 hours a week of services for free. They have grants that fund this. And so if you know somebody that's elderly, and I think that is scary, 65 is I think that's the cutoff. And so somebody can come take them shopping, play cards with them, help them cook, give the family maybe some respite, 5 hours a week, and it's free. And your caregiver is getting paid a decent wage. So that's very exciting as well.
Right. And everybody needs to feel as though they're valued and that they have these opportunities. The work they do is not only just appreciated, but they can be compensated and pay for the gas to go to and from some of these jobs, right, Korri?
Absolutely. Gas is another thing. How are you going to pay for the fuel? And this company does give a gas allowance to their employees. Mm-hmm. So I'm not exactly sure because I think it went up, so I'm not going to misquote it, but they do offer a gas reimbursement.
So these are folks that are living independently. They need a little additional support. As you said, it might be in the form of respite for adults, for seniors, and for children with autism with living in families?
Mostly just through the Rural Regional Center. It could be children, but that's got to be a super special case.
Okay.
I do know people that do qualify for that and have received that, but generally it's seniors. And for seniors, you can just go straight through the Northern Nevada Neighbor Network. And for adults with disabilities, adults with developmental disabilities, you go through the regional center, the Rural Regional Center. And
is there a website, Korri, or what's the best way? I mean, you are known as our local advocate. You're the go-to person for a lot of this, but just want to make sure. I guess if you were to go, I could probably pick up my phone and go to Northern Nevada Neighbor Network. They are a new provider, and then that might link us to some information?
Right, that definitely will. Their phone number will be on there.
Okay.
And I think there's a contact us where you can send them a little message. Please know they are new, and with all new companies, there are some growing pains. So if they don't get back to you straight away, then just, stay on it.
Don't be discouraged.
No, don't be discouraged. My son has been receiving services through them, and it has been very good, and they are very reliable and they treat their employees very well. So I'm very, very pleased with them.
Right. A lot of respect, a lot of dignity, and
Yes.
yeah.
Well, speaking of respect and dignity, there actually was a SB 315, which is a Bill of Rights for people with disabilities, saying that they do need to be treated with respect and dignity. And so to have that in the law, when I first read that BDR, I was like, what is this? And then I really started thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, we do need that, because sometimes people will not sometimes providers or people in powerful positions will not treat people with disabilities with respect and dignity.
Isn't that too bad that we have to legislate those things now, Korri? There are a lot of situations, I know, and we do shake our heads. And speaking of, it really is a good transition to the enabling legislation for a lot of this. We could just start at the top of your list and talk about, because again, these are significant changes in Nevada law, and they've been signed into law by Governor Joe Lombardo, correct?
Absolutely, yes. So I just had mentioned SB 315, and that's the one that ensures that people that are receiving home and community-based waiver services, whether they're adults with disabilities or seniors, that they need to be treated with respect and dignity. And that also means implementing person-centered services. Now, what person-centered services means is that somebody can have control over their own finances. They get to decide what they want to eat or when they want to eat, and those sorts of decisions. And actually, in the Olmstead Planning Committee, we are going to define that terminology and what it means in the state of Nevada. There is some people are going to interpret it differently, and but part of the Olmstead Plan is to ensure that people do have person-centered services, and now it is actually in Nevada state law. And
it will be prescribed by those who are living the experience, not by the elected officials or others making the decisions. It'll
right.
Be, yeah.
Okay. The Olmstead Planning Committee is all people with shared life experiences.
Oh, Korri, thank you. Korri Ward is our guest today. These are important developments we're talking about in providing services for adults, seniors, children with disabilities, with autism, and right here in our community. You did mention an important point about having, expressing your own will, getting to exercise that, meaning, your the choices that you make in your life. Nevada Legal Services is also an important partner in this effort.
Absolutely. Actually, the second half of SB 315 is a student bill of rights, which is very similar and says that children need to, before they exit high school, they need to be introduced to all of the services that are available, like through the regional center. They need to know about that. They need to know about voc rehab. They need to know about the Nevada Center for Independent Living and in the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities. Those are things that are supposed to be now introduced, and that's SB 315. And so since we're talking about students, something to talk about also is advocacy. And here in Elko on 10th Street is Nevada Legal Services. And you can do an internet search for Nevada Legal Services. They are in all of Nevada, but they offer pro bono attorney services. And so two of the big things that I think are important for people staying in the community is supported decision making. And if you've got a student that's in high school and is going to be graduating soon that has disabilities, the supported decision making is it's like a rite of passage where they're introduced to all the decisions that they're going to be making, like banking decisions and living decisions, with an attorney and talking about how they're going to get help in making those decisions. And so then the person that has a disability makes a decision who's going to help them make those decisions. And maybe at that same time, maybe also some advanced medical decisions can be made as well. So that's supported decision making through Nevada Legal Services. Generally pro bono. They do have grants to help people that maybe make a little bit more money than what they're normally can provide services for. And then the other one is IEP advocacy. And I'm a teacher, so I kind of, I'm very careful what I'm going to say here. But they also do have an attorney that will help with families that are struggling getting their IEP goals and objectives and accommodations, modifications met through the school district. And so it's a pro bono attorney to help with that is very valuable.
And can we also just define IEP again? People listening, yeah, I know it's specific. Sorry. No, you're fine. You're fine.
So a child that has a disability will have an individualized education plan. Now, this is not necessarily children with autism. This would be any child with a disability and would qualify for services through Nevada Legal Services.
Okay. So that's important, and that's your the conversation you should be having with, as you said, your school, your campus, if need be, the school district or the trustees, even in that case, but if it gets to that level. But this is a really good point, Korri, before we also dive into this new legislation. Can we define disabilities like on this program? I mean, because with all the information that we have now about mental illness, right? Mm-hmm. And healthy communities, all the work that's being done, as you said, autism, just getting people tested for autism, recognizing autism. We have now adults who are finding out that they've had autism their entire lives, right? How do we define disabilities?
So it's very different depending on who it is that's defining it. But generally, to access these services, like the home and community-based waiver services, it needs to be a developmental disability, which is a disability that impacts your ability to perform daily living chores, sort of like getting yourself dressed or cooking your food or bathing or showering, maybe even, walking. And
so that could be physical or emotional?
Yeah, it needs to happen before 21.
Okay.
And then, but all the other things we talked about today are maybe not so much developmental. So home and community-based waiver services, definitely developmental disability. It has to occur before the age of 21 or after 65. And then the Northern Nevada Neighborhood Network, remember, they will take any disability, but somebody that's going to require help doing their daily chores or daily living activities. And school district also defines things differently. Here's an interesting point. When we first started with the autism advocacy, in order to get it autism funded, to have it diagnosed, to have a diagnostic evaluation, and then to have treatment.
I remember how difficult that was.
It was crazy hard. Yes. And we redefined autism as a medical disorder. And then now it's under mental health.
Okay.
So there was that change. And under that change, I think that what I would like to see in the future and what I'm advocating for is that we don't have this cutoff age of 27 for people with disability or people with autism, that you can receive treatment even if you're 35 or 40 or something like that. If you need it, you should be able to access it and not have that cutoff. Mm-hmm. So, and we can do that using the Mental Health Parity Act. So I think Medicaid just needed more time to get their budget figured out. So, because I've been advocating for that on the Autism Commission for quite a while now, and Medicaid came and spoke to the commission, and one of the things they're kind of trying to figure out how much that's going to cost.
Okay, Korri. And so obviously the diagnosis needs to start with, say, your family physician, right?
You're getting a diagnosis. Yes, super important.
And early as possible.
Yes, there's things called the MChat. If people contact me through the Northern Nevada Autism Network, I can send them links to doing their own MChat, which is available on the Autism Speaks website. If you do the MChat, that's something, if you see red flags, talk to your doctor. Some people say they want to wait till they're 6, but that's problematic because there's a program called ATAP, the Autism Treatment Assistance Program, that helps families will pay for autism treatment while the family's getting their insurance figured out and all of this, and it kind of helps the parent. But what's available to a child changes at age 6. So if you wait till 6 to get a diagnosis, you won't get the treatment that your child could have gotten when they were 3 or 4. So it changes in the number of hours of therapy you can get a week. Mm-hmm. So super important that if you see red flags, you can contact us, you can talk to your doctor, you can do the MChat, and try to get a diagnostic evaluation as soon as you can. If it's not autism, okay. But if it is autism, you want to get treatment as soon as you can because it does change what kind of treatment you can get.
So early childhood development should help this process. Right now, pre-K is offered throughout the Elko County School District.
Well, that's a tricky subject. I kind of am a believer until a kid has the ability to sit and learn in a classroom that maybe at home ABA might be a really good treatment for the child, and then have the kid, once he's got skills, to be in the classroom. Because you got to think, it's a small community. If that child's going to go to school with these peers, for his whole school time, then let's let all of what the peers think of that child be that child is successful in the classroom.
Right. Already going in with friends. Right.
Right.
Built-in friends and support.
Right. Having the ability to make friends, having the ability to sit and listen to a teacher. Those are all skills that need to be taught to a child with autism.
Yep. And that's the hard thing, Korri. When you're the family member, sometimes it's hard to see it. Right? You think it's just what it is.
I hear
personality, right?
Grandmas are awesome because they're like, I think something's up.
Yeah.
And typically parents are very involved just in day to day.
Right.
But you know what? There's a lot of information at our library, and there's a lot of information online, and we're available to help guide. But the MCHAP is very effective in trying to help parents decide whether or not it's autism. But the best thing if you're going to do MCHAT is have more than one person do it. So if you have a daycare worker or other people in the family, because I know I'm a parent, I'm biased. I don't see things the way other people do.
It's hard. It's hard. Northern Nevada Autism Network is nnan.org. And then we're going to steer back on and just go through this legislation because I know that, again, this is huge. And this is a result of the most recent session, right, Korri? So,
yeah. Oh, yeah. So some of the things that we talk about, are either going to go into effect this in July. They already went into effect, or they're going to go into effect in January. So there's SB 385. It adds vision and dental services to Medicaid. Medicaid had provided vision, but it was very specific on the kinds of lenses that you can get. And so now it allows polycarbonate lenses as well. And dental was covered before, but only extractions. So now fillings and crowns and dentures are now covered. And so that's a great service to adults with disabilities that are, that have Medicaid, that they can now actually go to the dentist and have dental work done instead of just extractions. Another exciting bill was SB 411. It allows juvenile court to access autism treatment programs. And so if a juvenile is adjudicated of a crime, and instead of maybe going away to a training center, they can go to a treatment center where they will work at treating the autism. And this is new. This is fabulous. However, it's not required that the judge makes this decision, but the judge can. And they already have an autism court down in Southern Nevada. So there's an opportunity there to kind of have professionals kind of talk and see what they could maybe make happen for our kids. So, if you've got a frustrated mom that's like, he stole my car, and she calls the sheriff, and then the kid's taken away, maybe there was something else that could have been done. So, so this gives that opportunity and makes it aware that there is a autism court. Let's see. Then AB 259. This one I think has until 2028 to become effective, and it requires the job and day training programs like United Cerebral Palsy or Ruby Mountain Resource Center to pay minimum wage. So it's giving them a while to figure out how they're going to do that. So they have until January 2028. So
and that's huge. I mean. Right? But that seems right. Right?
Right. And I think that in coordination with the rate increase down below will make that something more doable because their billable rate also increased. And so that will make it actually something that could happen. And in talking about this rate increase that went up, that report was finished on June 4th of 2021. And so, for an advocate like me, I had to sit on that and wait for 2023 to get that pushed through. But every 4 years, they have to reassess the rate of direct care staff and the rate for the providers to make sure that they are making enough money that they can keep their business afloat. So that's exciting. That rate increase will be reevaluated every 4 years.
And you said that does tie in with the 279, or was that 279 you were just describing? Because that's
okay. So AB 259 is for people that are working at or job and day training centers. And then SB 279 is somebody that has a disability and wants to, not just autism, but has a disability and wants to work for the state. The state is going to be a model employer, and in doing that, they need to hire people with disabilities. So they're going to come up with trainings, and they're going to work collaboratively with Voc Rehab to come up with how they can help people that have autism have a career with the state.
Be employable.
Yeah,
right.
How the state can train them and work with them. And because maybe what they're training is, maybe they have the skills and they'll be a great employee, but how they need to be approached so that they fit in, and how to make it a successful needs to be taught
There'll be an effort
to the
there.
state, to the state and to the state agencies. And so the adult with autism can have a career in the state. So the state is going to become a model agency for employment, and that means hiring people with disabilities. And then hopefully the goal then is that other agencies, states, or other forms of government, other businesses will also hire people with autism or with disabilities at a higher rate.
And then this ties in with, you would think it was obvious, but with AB 161, the first people on the scene, they care for people. They're responding to so many social situations anymore. But first responders and law enforcement also need, some more awareness, according to this legislation.
So AB 161 allows the DMV to put on their driver's license or on registration that there's a communication need. Okay, so it doesn't require a whole lot of paperwork to get that on, according to the law. And so what that means is if somebody that has autism is driving and they get pulled over, the law enforcement will know as soon as they have their driver's license that there's a communication need. And so that's kind of a note to maybe handle things a little bit differently, or and start looking for a developmental disability, or look for maybe a hearing impairment, or looking for some sort of communication need. Maybe so it's not just autism, but it could be that their voice is different or something like that. So it could be any sort of language delay. Maybe there's a stutter. So the actual need for communication, the communication need is not written there, but it's kind of just letting law enforcement know that there is something. And that's really super important, because we don't want people to be identified as maybe being under an influence of a drug when actually maybe they just have a disability or have a special communication need.
Or they could be having a panic or anxiety attack too, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yes. And that could be part of this diagnosed disability. So put a little check mark on your driver's license, right? To help help inform people. It's all about communication. Isn't it nice that we can talk about these things now, Korri? Really?
This is so exciting that it's just like a leap forward in accepting people into our community and allowing them to have the services that they need to stay in the community and not be institutionalized. So that'd be way too expensive, and their quality of life would not be the same,
And I'm wondering, I guess in parting, because obviously we're going to have you back, because this is such an important topic in the community. You've been doing so much good work, you and your other advocates and families. But what do we do in the interim about transitional housing? Because for able people, we don't have affordable housing right now.
We do need that. That is definitely something that's going to be talked about in our Olmstead Planning Committee, is housing. What supports can we have here to keep people in the community? Where can they live? Where can they afford to live? And, how long is that wait list? Is there even a wait list, right?
Thank goodness we have things like when you first started talking about these issues, we didn't have public transportation, but now, thanks to Elko County government, they are funding, get my ride, Greater Elko Transit.
Yes, that is absolutely fabulous.